room roll call in the beginning.
All right, we're live.
All right, we are live. We're live?
We're
Are we
live.
Okay, good. This is all right. I've already had the chance to check and make sure my boobs are here, that there's no boogers hanging out my nose. So we are ready to go.
No mocos.
No mocos. What's up, everybody? Tania Estrada in the house. Thank you so much for joining Talking Crap with Tania Estrada with my co-host, Jimmy James Callaghan. You can find him and add him at Universal Smoothness. Today, I have a real treat for you guys. We have Rose Morro. She is known as an energy healer who practices the emotion code, the body code, and T3 healing to uncover and transform emotional, physical, and financial blockages in your body. Thank you, Rose, so much for joining us today. And I'm so excited to get into this interview with you. How are you doing, Rose?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me, Tania. It's a pleasure.
No, the pleasure is all mine that we're going to be able to help a lot of people that I'm sure have been looking for a way to get rid of whatever it is that's troubling them, that they don't know how to get out. Is that a good way of saying it?
Yes, yes. It's super. Yeah, it's a timely moment. You know, we didn't foresee much of this happening, but I've found that people are really reaching out and looking for a safe way to, handle their emotions right now.
Yes, and emotions is your thing. Emotions is your thing. All right, let's see. So let's talk about emotions, because emotions is what everybody is going through right now. And when people are going through stuff, it just seems like they kind of keep going, right? And they don't stop and they fix it. And they end up being what is called trapped emotions. Tell us a little bit about trapped emotions.
Well, essentially, often during really stressful times, our body becomes, we feel all kinds of different emotions, and these emotions can impact our bodies. And sometimes, they're felt and just processed. And other times they're so intense that they become lodged in the body. And essentially a trapped emotion is a sphere or a ball of energy ranging from the size of a golf ball to a small melon. And it can disrupt the energy field of the body and cause, physical pain, disrupts the chemical reactions and the flow of energy through the meridians and even lymph and blood flow. And it can also cause emotional upset. And so it's interesting, this work, because we get to address both, as you said in the intro, emotional and physical issues.
Yes. A lot of the times it could be something as simple as a lower back pain to maybe a huge pounding headache that you just can't get rid of. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, I didn't give any examples. So yes, a physical issue, just as you said, it can be back pain, neck pain, even worked with people with tooth pain, and even runners say they've got pain in the knees, to emotional pain, anxiety, depression, and especially during this time, panic has come up, and anger and frustration. So yes, we can certainly look at both physical and emotional issues.
Well, I want to say that I've known you now a bit over a year and some change, as we would like to say. And I came to you with a very specific pain that I had. And that is the pain that we've all been through, which is known as heartache, right?
Yes.
He said,
yes.
Heartache.
Tania, was your heartache the size of a golf ball, or was it the size of a melon?
Dude, it was the size of my tit.
Yeah.
If not bigger.
I remember that. I remember it's great because Arlene at We Are Sacred Light.
Shout out Arlene.
Yes. Introduced us, and And I remember, didn't we, without breaking your confidentiality, I think we cut a cord, didn't we? An energetic connection between
Yes.
someone and between you and that someone. And boy, you really had, I remember your feedback was just amazing.
Go ahead and go into it.
Remember, it was pretty rapid because after most sessions, people take a day or two, maybe 3, depending what we've released. But your feeling was, I remember that night, and I remember you played guitar, right, for 5 hours?
Yeah, if not a little bit longer.
And you hadn't done that in a long time.
I had not picked up my instrument in
Yes.
a long time, if not years, since I'd really picked it up and sat and played. And when I walked out of your session, because if you guys are listening out there, trapped emotions essentially sit on top of other things that can keep you, that are the things that keep you motivated. For me, it's my creativity.
That's right.
And
we actually have a new page on my website, and it's called Unblocking Creativity. And that's exactly what this, you wouldn't think that perhaps heartache or maybe an emotion in the neck would affect your creativity once released. Well, it's just amazing how these simple emotions, once we find them, can unblock creativity. And where I worked with also a client in Los Angeles, and she is a young actress, and it's almost, even to me, I feel it's miraculous that she was able to get some auditions after her her session. And then another young lady, she does design work, and we released some issues, and it was all about relationship. So you'd think completely removed from creative expression, and sure enough, she was able to, I think her testimony is on the website, but it's interesting. But I remember you especially said that you played for at least 5 hours, and you're into the night after
Absolutely. I had been jamming with James and Martin. Remember, we would jam, but it wasn't that long. It was just kind of, we picked it up to see where we were at.
Sure.
We were all musicians, but we hadn't really gotten into the thick or to the meat of playing. And so the day that I had my session with you, I had planned to go and hang out with my brother, Alex. Shout out to Alex Insua. I had planned to go play guitar with him, but I didn't know where I was going to pull anything out of anything. And it was that unblocking and that cutting of that cord that when I got there, it was like we picked up our instruments, and I was playing like I hadn't played. I mean, we just played for hours. It just continued, and I was coming up with all kinds of stuff, and it continued to help, didn't it, Jimmy James? Because every time we came into practice, now when we were having full-on practices, it's like every practice I was coming up with a new riff or a new something to be able to play.
Wow.
And had it not been for your session, I think I would have had it like essentially writer's block, guitar player's writer's block.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So
that's amazing. I love feedback. It really, it's so dynamic, and it makes me feel that this work has such extended, far-reaching purpose.
For people. Yes. Jimmy James?
I've got a big question. Does the majority of trapped emotions stem from relationships?
Oh, I would say that's a very good question. I would say relationships, you mean in within couples, or you mean with families, or with the workplace?
I'd phrase it like that just to be super broad, right?
Yeah.
Just a relationship between one person and another.
Yes, and absolutely. It comes up all the time, and it can really block us. You see, and a big part of the emotion code is Dr. Bradley. Here, I'll just give a little plug. This is the book written by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and this is a new edition, and with a foreword by Tony Robbins. And it's really beautiful. And he actually devotes about 40 pages to the heart wall. And a heart wall is something that our subconscious puts around our heart after we've gone through some, emotional upset. And that usually happens, James, in relationship. And it can be in the workplace, and it can affect our finances. It can affect our creativity, because the heart is known as the seat of our creativity. That's why I think when we disconnected that cord for Tania, that she was able to play her music again. So I think that's, I never thought about it like that, but I think relationships is where the trapped emotions do get, because we're all connected energetically, and this is energy healing, and so there's that interconnection among us.
I think what people don't understand, and a lot try to figure out, is what we are as humans here on Earth. Oh, National Guard's here. You guys just heard that. Yay,
yeah,
team!
That came through.
That came through. Sorry. As I was saying, sorry, you guys, if you guys are just tuning in, we have Rose Morro, T3 Emotion and Body Code Practitioner, and we are conducting a podcast in the middle of Armageddon. So please don't mind the sirens and the popping bombs. It's just, it's just par for the course, right, Jimmy James?
I guess it feels like it's par for 2020. That's it just keeps doing this.
Layers.
The layers.
Yeah.
So what people fail to understand and not understand in themselves is that we are essentially walking batteries of energy.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
And the way that I like to explain your work when I try to tell someone my testimony of what I went through is, imagine a car, right? And a car has to go through maintenance. It has to go through an oil change, get the spark plugs changed up. Yeah. What do people do for their body? What do people do to tune themselves up and get themselves correct again? Yes. For me, I have found that our Arlene at We Are Sacred Light has been very instrumental. Oh, absolutely. I've never known to feel anything like that beyond alcohol, smoking weed, being in love, or the latter of it, heartbreak. I have felt nothing else in my life. Yeah. And this is just such a whole other level of feeling things that I would never know that I could feel. Like the sound baths, the way that the sounds tune you up. And if you think of it that way, I can kind of compare the sound bath to tuning a guitar or tuning a piano, right?
Yes.
And then you come in, right? And then you Earth Angel, you. That's your nickname. That's what we call you behind your back, right?
I know. Arlene told me. Oh my gosh.
Earth Angel. Oh. You come in and you take out essentially the traumas that we have that lodge themselves in our body. When you've been through something and you say, you just stuff it down, right? You stuff it down. Well, whatever it is that you stuff down and you try to keep going forward, that does not move. That moves along into your muscles, into different places in your body, and they stay there, right?
Well said. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you got this. It's really true. And each emotion and thought has its own frequency and vibrates at, and so, sometimes, as I said before, they're felt and they're processed out. Mm-hmm. But the more intense emotions, some that we're just not aware of, they really do get stuck. And this is why I like being able to access through muscle testing, which is the basic form of kinesiology, we connect to the subconscious. And we don't just do it in this body of work. We do it with, biological dentistry, chiropractic care, nutritional counseling, and physical therapy. So it takes the woo-hoo out of this work a little bit, because a lot of it is actually based in science.
Yes.
And I like the magic of it, because it does feel very magical to be able to connect with a beautiful human being, and to connect with their energy field, because, as I said before, we're all connected, and to be able to do this work for their highest good. It's because, we're kind of using, our bodies, in my case, as a conduit for healing.
Yes. I have my list of questions right here.
Yes.
I have my list of questions, and I want to go into the technical aspects of the rest of it, but I really want to jump into the question of how you got into it, and why do you do this type of work, Rose? Because I can imagine that this might be, I would assume, very draining on you at times.
Well, it's funny. I do put a shield up, as you and I were talking about the other day, an energetic shield. It's called Shields Up. And I just passed from the brow chakra over the governing meridian, which is the largest vessel in the acupuncture meridian system, down to the neck. And I just pass it 3 times before each session and after. But the reason I got into it is because, after we had our family experience this big disconnect post-divorce, and I all of a sudden I found from a tightly knit family to, we were, separate in different countries. And so what I thought, and I'd gone to workshops, and I had done, went to counseling, and read books. Oh, so many self-help
books.
Yeah. And at one of these, I learned muscle testing and didn't really use it. And then about 13 years ago, a friend of mine, and I think she's on listening tonight, she's a really good friend in Sydney. She sent me, in Australia, she sent me a link to the emotion code. And there was something about the author, Dr. Bradley Nelson. There's something trustworthy about him. And I thought, accessing the subconscious. Okay, now what is that? And it's everything. When you read something, when you go to workshops and you speak to people, it's kind of just from the conscious level. And this kind of struck a chord where I was able, it was just a way to go deeper and to pull myself together. And so I gave myself sessions, as well as my family, who are now young adults in Los Angeles, actually. And also friends. And then a friend suggested that I, about 3 years later, that I do it maybe for other people. So I just, and then I've always had a love for people, I think we share that, all of us. And
me, not so much, but
and the thing is, the whole energy healing piece it's based on, which I love, compassion and non-judgment. And I love the ability to work with everybody, men, women, children, and so forth. So I think that's the reason there was a personal need, and then I just extended out.
I love stories like that, because that's so in line with, I started making chocolate in my kitchen and giving it to my friends and family. And then all of a sudden I have a business, right? Like I have something I've built off of something because I'm good at it. I think that's fantastic. Rose, what did you want to be when you grow up? Because it sounds like you kind of got into this world
a little bit late.
Well, I don't want to say late, but not through a traditional, maybe not through a traditional schooling.
Well, before I did, I actually was a resource specialist working with kids in high school. They ran the gamut from learning disabled to gifted kids in the public school system. And honestly, they were amazing kids.
Mm.
And so I was able to, kind of align myself with difference. And it was really a great experience. So I think I've brought in my communication skills, my love of people, I think. Because I think everyone goes through many different things that we can relate to. Maybe not the same, of course, but that we can relate to at some time or another in our lives. And it's never too late to do this work, or too early, so.
You're right, because there's only so many themes, right?
Yes.
that you can experience. And even if the details and the nuance are different, the themes will probably be very similar. And it's if you're a good communicator, and you can get to those themes, you can find empathy and you can find understanding.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly right. That's half of it. That's really half of it. And I my kids are all in the arts, and I see this with their music and with their projects, painting, that connection, that bringing out everything from within, like you were saying earlier, playing, Tania, and you just have that connection. It's amazing.
It is. I just, no wonder you're into this work. You've been helping out people since the beginning before you were doing this.
Yeah, my 20s. Yeah.
Because there's nothing more noble than a teacher. It really is.
They, those kids are absolutely darling. Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful that you think so, because of the description of the kids that you used to work with, that requires a lot of patience.
Oh yeah.
Wow, ridiculous amounts of patience.
You have to be patient. Yeah.
So, the way you do your work is not the traditional way that most therapy sessions happen. Most therapy sessions happen in an office, right? Face to face. And I was very fortunate that my first session with you was actually face to face.
Yes.
But you do a lot of your work remotely. Is that correct?
Yes. And this work can be very effective, just as effective. And thank goodness, because right now, that's all I'm doing. And the reason it's so powerful is because energy doesn't know any time or distance. And we have an innate ability to connect. Since we're all interconnected, we have an innate ability as people to put our needs aside and connect with someone's energy field. And do this, of course, with connecting with Oxy and then muscle testing. And so it's very, very powerful. It's just as powerful in doing the work remotely, on telephone, and some people prefer it that way, even if they're close, they still prefer just to being a little bit more anonymous sometimes. And others, of course, it runs the gamut, but I knew I've been working with someone for about 3 years, and at first she just wanted in person, and now she sees the power of long distance. Yeah.
I love the long distance. I love the not having to shower and show up for my session. That's my favorite part.
Yeah. You can do it in your pajamas,
Yeah, you could do it in your pajamas. I've had you do a remote session. You were so nice after, and to catch you guys up, Rose is a T3 code practitioner. She helps release trapped emotions in the body. We've discussed heartbreak. We've discussed, we haven't gotten to the other ones yet, but my favorite is heartbreak, but also agitated situations, or situations that are agitating you. For some reason, you were really good at. So Rose right now is part of the collective at We Are Sacred Light, and she has been so nice to join us when we do the sound bath meditations with Arlene, where she does a emotion code clearing. She does a emotion clearing. Last night we had a session at 7 p.m. And you cleared people in the collective. It was probably about 80, 90 people that had joined, and you cleared anxiety, you cleared worry, you cleared fear, you cleared hopelessness,
sadness and forlorn.
Sadness and forlorn. Forlorn is a feeling of hopelessness, right? It's like a form of hopelessness.
Yes.
So
really down, feeling really blue.
Yes, and I can imagine with what's going on with the quarantine, with you know, Armageddon pretty much in our backyards at this point, and people being cooped up. What we do as a collective releases a lot for people. And I want to thank you for that, for doing that. You do that free of charge. Just you're giving back to humanity that way.
Yes. And the reason we can do that is because, and I didn't mention this, but often emotions, we can absorb them from other people, whether we're in a couple or in a family or in a larger group. And so those absorbed energies are still one ball of energy, still one single energy. And so by me tapping into the collective, I can, this is what you witnessed last night, identify a trapped emotion one at a time, and then release it through there's a certain, we haven't talked about that, but we just release those from the collective as one energy, one at a time. So that's how empowering it can be. And I've worked with families that way, and you know, husband and wives or couples. It's been really, it's just amazing.
It is. It's so amazing, and I love the way that you explain group healing, or the way that you explain what we all experience together, which is talk to us a little bit about when we all observe the same thing happening. Like we're all in a room and we all see the same thing happening. What happens?
Well, what goes on is, we just say, for example, the emotion is anxiety. Well, if say there's the big group of people, and if we at this experience this emotion at the same exact time, we absorb it from each other, essentially. And so I can, as practitioner, go in and release this from the collective by connecting to this collective energy, this one trapped emotion, and release it from me. Remember, because we're all connected. And so it's very powerful how, and very interesting that this energy can be absorbed, say, between two people up to, you know, 100, or you know, this is what happens when large groups of people are affected by trauma at the same time.
Now, so Rose, you said that energy doesn't know time
or distance.
So does your spidey sense go haywire when you go to an area that's been affected by a sizable trauma, such as, I just thought like the World Trade Center, right? Like if you were to go to the World Trade Center, would you pick up something there? Would you have to protect yourself? Because in theory, there was that exact same thing. A lot of people experience some, you know, very disturbing, you know, energies all at the same time. And then if it gets trapped, what happened? Like what happens to you in a situation like that?
That's a very, very good question. You know, you basically have to connect with that energy. And so what I do, and you know, even yesterday when I walk on the beach here early in the mornings, and I was thinking about whatever, you know, all this thing that's going on. And what I do is I do what I explained to Tania the last session, is I just put a shield up around my energy field. And I just I tap from my, and everybody can do this. We tap there, right, with our, say, 3 fingers at our brow chakra, And as we go right over the center of our head, we're actually passing down the governing meridian, which interconnects with all the other meridian systems in the body. And we just say shields up. And
Shields up.
And essentially what we're doing is we're saying shields up to protect me from any or negative or offensive energies. And you just go 3 times. You can do it in the morning if you're driving through any of those exposed areas, say for now, in your car, you know, you can do it at any time. So I'm sensitive to energies, but I think we all are, but I think just a general protection is and setting the intention. So what we do, we set the intention in our mind to be protected. And as we pass our hand over the governing meridian, we're actually amplifying by flowing magnetic energy into the meridian system. So it actually does protect us.
If you, for you guys that are out there listening, basically the way that works is, you guys remember Karate Kid? Remember Mr. Miyagi? Remember how he'd get that going? Wax on, wax off, and then
hot hands.
There's actual energy coming through your hands. Everybody has it. Everybody. If you've ever been to the point where you're about to make out, you know, and you get really close, right? You feel that energy between you. It's the same with your hands.
Right.
And a perfect example, I want to let you know that I had a friend this weekend that was going through a very emotional and a very, very difficult time in her relationship with her boyfriend. And she was in tears. She was just like losing it. And I told her, I don't want to go to specifics, but I calmed her down, and I had her put her hand over her head just with me on FaceTime, just to do it. And she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, I feel better. She goes, "Oh." It was just the craziest thing to her that she'd been crying all day, but I was able to calm her down, because, you know, in those moments, you don't really know what to do. And for me, you know, I want to help my friends out, and I just didn't know what else to do. And it was the only tool that I had in my toolbox, and it worked. I just want to tell you that it worked.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's how empowering it can be. It's incredible. And energy healing restores the energetic balance of the body and maintains that harmony, which just allows us to remain in good health.
Yes. And now for you guys that are out there that are listening, that's only one part of it. That's like a quick fix type of thing. For you guys that are out there, if you guys are experiencing anything, you can do that yourselves too right now.
Yes.
To clear yourself.
Yes. Say if you're feeling fear, for example, all you do is you just say, "I'm now releasing fear," and you pass 3 times. "I'm now releasing fear from my body." And if it's panic, "I am now setting the strong intention." It's all in the intention. "I'm setting the intention to release this panic now from my body." And you just do 3 times. And are you sure that you feel panic? Well, if you intuitively know you're feeling panic, we go with that. I mean, of course, in my work, I muscle test, but you don't have to necessarily, you know, working on yourself. You don't necessarily, you just have a real good sense about you. And so you can release it.
So before we go into the muscle testing portion and the releasing of the trapped emotions with magnetic force, I want you to explain what the governing meridian is, and the points and the acupressure points and how it applies in science to Chinese, kind of like in Chinese acupuncture, in a sense, right?
Yes, we have acupressure points along the meridian systems in the body. And this has been used for 3,000 years or so. And so for our purposes, we access the governing meridian. It's essentially, it goes from the top of the lip up over the head and down the spine, along the spine, and down to the tailbone. But for our purposes, we simply can just, you know, take it from here, as I said, and over, because we actually amplify our intention to release a trapped emotion by putting a magnetic energy, the flow of magnetic energy, intensifying or amplifying our intention down the governing meridian. And what that does, it neutralizes the emotion. Say my example earlier, panic. We neutralize this emotion, and it renders the circuit back into balance, because we have circuitry within and all around our bodies. And so it's full of energy. And so whenever a circuit is out of balance, that's what causes pain or discomfort or emotional unrest.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's a good way to explain it.
And it makes sense, doesn't it, when you think of it?
It does make sense. Before we started last night, before we started our session, our sound bath and your clearing, I had a really weird pain that jumped. This pain is usually on this side, right? On my right side. And we just had a session on Wednesday where you completely unblocked this whole area. That's well, could you believe that it for some reason yesterday it jumped over here to this side? And I was like, why is my back hurting? My back has never hurt on that side. Well, when we went into the session and when we were done, it was gone. That pain was gone.
The group healing last night?
Yeah, after the group healing last night, that feeling was gone.
And we only released 6 trapped emotions, I think.
Yes.
From the collective. So, yeah.
I wonder what it was that I was feeling. I wonder what it could have
Grabbiness.
been. No. Grabbiness. I'm crabby. Maybe I was a little bit, was I crabby? No, I don't think that was it. Maybe I was somewhat anxious, but I couldn't really pinpoint what it was, but it just maybe I was tired. Maybe being tired.
But remember too, you could have you spent time with your friend, right?
Yes.
When did you spend, when was that, was Sunday on FaceTime?
When I spent time with my friend. Oh, that was Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, you could have absorbed, you're a good friend, you care about her. You could have absorbed a trapped emotion that we just so happened to release during the group healing thing.
So it jumps like that. It jumps kind of like Insidious. Like it jumps from one person. So you can absorb energy from another person.
Exactly. Well said. That's exactly how it works when we look at group healing within a family, within couple, or within a group. Yeah.
Wow. We
can absorb. We can also, by the way, inherit emotions. Those are really interesting.
Explain those inherited emotions.
Please.
Inherited trapped emotions. In fact, today it was very interesting. It's the very first time I worked with this lady. She was referred by her son and daughter-in-law, and she had some trapped emotions come up. And I got a sense to ask, are these inherited? And sure enough, they were, and they were inherited from her mother. And it was just so amazing. The feedback she gave me about her mom just fit those trapped emotions. And we released unworthiness and low self-esteem. Those two. And I said, does that resonate? She didn't have to share anything. Because, this isn't therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm certified as an energy healer. So we just simply bring these up and release them. And it was incredible. She said, well, as a matter of fact, and she said, my mother was this and this, and we did it with respect, of course. And it just resonated. So we released those. She felt so much lighter, she said at the end.
Wow. Do you believe that it's inherited from a learned perspective, or it is passed down through genetics?
DNA. Yeah. Yes, it's actually, that's very good. That's the old nurture versus nature argument, right? Gosh, your questions are amazing. Yeah.
That's why I keep them around.
Oh my gosh, I gotta be on the top of my game here.
Right.
Very interesting. So learned behavior, I would say that would be maybe, you know, absorbed, especially when you see this in families, you know, yeah. And but how it happened today was her, she said she noticed she has 6 siblings. And she said, we all have, you know, self-esteem issues, and we're all good people, of course. But, and then when we identified these 2 inherited trapped emotions, it kind of made sense. And she felt amazing after. So,
you know, I didn't get to tell you this, Jimmy James, but Rose and I had a session April 15th. Right. And I know this because anytime you do a session with her, she's so amazing, because she just doesn't do the session. She also does notes, and then she does notes as she's doing the session. Right. Yeah. Look at it with her little teacher folder right there. I see Rose.
Wow.
Her little teacher folder. Yeah. She keeps files on her patients, and then she puts the notes in there. And then what she does is she takes the notes and she scans the notes she sends the notes to you.
Oh, wow.
So
that's
then
super cool.
In a PDF, and you have a record of those. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So she's not like American doctors where they do notes and they keep them, you know, like the Seinfeld doctor that wouldn't let Elaine see the file, right? Like she actually gives you the notes so you can keep them. And they're so great because I feel like that these notes are so great to look back at and be like, this happened on this day, at this time, at this. And one thing that I had no idea that actually tripped me out was because, you know, my dad passed away in September. And she found a cord to my dead father.
Yes.
And it was like, how many of us have had a loved one that passes away to never be talked to again, to never resolve any issues that you had? And she was able to essentially drop this cord. Like, explain that process of how you cleared me from my father and the feelings that were attached to that.
What Tania is talking about is a cord comes up, and it's actually an energetic connection that we have with someone. And when it comes up in the emotion code, body code, it's essentially that it's an unhealthy cord of some kind. And we can be connected to someone through any body part. You know, you've heard they're tied at the hip, or, you know, he's got a noose around his neck, or, and then I think with your dad, it was an unhealthy heart to heart cord. And so, and then instead of just releasing it, I've learned to ask what's underneath. And so we asked, and there were some trapped emotions of, you know, despair or anxiety or sadness and grief and things like that. And so we released those. And then I remember I had you gently close your eyes and imagine your dad sitting on your heart side. And we imagined the cord just dropping away from your heart as well as from his. And then we replaced where the heart cord was attached, we replaced with compassion, with love, and I believe forgiveness. And I kind of just, depending on the person I'm working with, I just, the right qualities come into my mind. And so we just fill it with light and healing and kindness and energies like that.
Well, I do want to tell you, I'll give you a little bit of an update on that. And also too, I guess this would be kind of being vulnerable right now to the audience. When my father passed away, there was a lot that happened in our family life. And at the point of him passing, that didn't leave me very compassionate, so to speak, right? Rose had no idea what I was going through or the reflections of what happened in our lives as a family that would cause me to have these not so proud of, you know, that's my dad feelings. And it left me at a point where, how could I say this? I was glad he was gone. I felt all these awful things. Like I feel like the monster is gone. I feel like all of these things that a daughter wouldn't normally want to say about her father. And I didn't say them to Rose, especially when we went on this session. She had no clue. But I do want to tell you that you just reminded me what you filled that with.
Yes.
And as of maybe, I want to say a few days ago, I feel compassion, and I no longer feel that feeling that I was feeling before. So I thank you for that. I feel forgiveness. I feel forgiveness. I feel acceptance. But, you know, I've always had the feeling of at least he's at peace, which is what I wanted. Yes. But I no longer feel those awful feelings that I had that were like a dark little corner that I kind of just stuck under my heart, if that makes sense. Like it's just felt like it's just like I just rolled up my feelings, whatever they were, and was there for my family and just kind of stuffed it under my heart. And you had no way of knowing that.
No. But see, through muscle testing, I was able to connect with your subconscious, and our subconscious knows, it almost prioritizes, really does, what needs to be identified and released first. So that's why people resonate with this, because it's really a non-invasive process. I don't ask really any questions. Remember, it's not therapy per se. It's actually finding energies. And so we connected, and that session was by on remote. And I remember connecting, and you were super open, which, by the way, I think being open to this work is really, I think it's really crucial, because like if you said to yourself, if I eat this orange right now, it's not going to do me any good. It's going to make my stomach kind of, feel bad. It could make your stomach feel bad, because that's the thought, versus, boy, if I have this orange, it's going to fill me with vitamin C and make me feel more energized. So the mind can be really powerful. And you're so open to it, and especially remote, because I think you were feeling when sometimes when our back is against the wall, we're going to try it. We're just going to go ahead and try it, because we have everything to gain and nothing to lose, sometimes.
So when I'm driving my car and it's getting ready to have a problem or have an issue, there's a little dash light that comes on that says, "Hey man, the oil's bad. Hey man, your transmission's ready to go." What are some of the dashboard lights that somebody should look for or be aware of to seek somebody like you out, or to seek out an energy healer just in general? Because for Tania's issue, for example, a big issue with her dad, and it crept into her heart and she covered it up. You die a little bit inside when that happens, right? All of a sudden you're not feeling as much, all sorts of different things happen. So, short of continuously like going through that horrible, awful cycle and just letting that get worse, what are some of these signals that somebody can look for to say like, oh, okay, this is what I need to do?
And I think Tania referred to this too, of being stuck. I personally, I remember when I really, was looking for something, no matter what I tried, I felt stuck. Something did not budge. And so when you feel stuck, you feel this kind of overlay of, ugh, and you really just want to, you have to, there's something in the way of moving you forward. So I think that is, we can get blocked, toward earning a decent money. Again, creative blockage. But so that, and then seeing patterns, people have noticed that. Others is, say, in relationship, if they're looking for a relationship and they haven't found it, they'll come and they'll say, is there something blocking me from finding, and fill in the blank, new love, my beautiful new job. Today, one of the clients said, why is it that I'm always sustaining leg injuries? And
sustaining leg injuries, like how so?
she's had an ACL injury in her knee. She had sustained an injury to her ankle, and it just came up as not being supported. The emotion was unsupported.
Oh, that's
Look at the
so
metaphor.
interesting.
Yes, and it really made sense to her. And so we released that, with other things. So it's, I don't know, James, does that answer your question? There's almost, the person intuitively knows that, if they're trying to achieve a new goal, one client I work with always had a sense of wanting to move. She'd moved so many times in her youth, and she's living in a certain city. She was really excelling, has a great job, and but there's something that made her want to get moving. And she thought, no, she really wanted to stay. She didn't want to uproot herself. And there was, I was referred to her by a friend of hers. So I think it's wanting to make a change. And another thing too, with anything to do with the body, a back pain or the neck or, wrist or something. And if a chiropractor can't do anything, or, the medicine doesn't, Tylenol doesn't fix it, they might go, you know what, let me see, can I try this? Will that help?
Should have done it in the first place. It's interesting because it really requires then a level of self-awareness and self-desire, which is very much along the lines with successful therapy sessions, right? Traditional therapy, because if you're going to a therapist and you don't want to be there, you're probably not going to get anything out of it.
No.
Versus going and, actually having some sort of desire, even if it's, what I call just emptying out your bullshit bucket, right? Something as simple as that. There's still, there's still a reason to be there, and there's still a goal. So no, I think it makes a ton of sense. And I think what's great is that the people then that probably land on your doorstep, are open to your practice versus, which I think is great. And it probably makes it, I would assume that it makes it that much more easier for you to establish a session with them and some level of success.
Yes. And because they what's the word when there's a buy-in, there's a connection already made. And that's why referrals are so beautiful, because someone's already spoken on behalf of this work.
Yep.
And so they can think about it and, kind of make up their own mind. And then they get to make that decision. And yet they have the information at hand. And
I'm so curious about sorry, Tania, I'm so curious about the muscle testing, because that seems like a physically quantifiable way to measure this.
Yes.
Is that, am I getting too ahead of the situation here? Okay.
No, the whole muscle testing, it's like a phone call to the subconscious. And essentially the muscle all around us, we have that grid, as I said, and energy flows through our muscles. And so whenever there's something that impacts our electrical circuitry, and causes an imbalance, and it might be in a trapped emotion, or it could be, a certain food we've had, or the body, the muscle will weaken very quickly. And so it's a signal. And muscle testing is just a binary system. It's a yes or no system. So there's no ifs or buts. And so it's really incredible how that works. It's because our subconscious, it's like a holographic computer, records everything we've ever done or said. Studies have shown that it's where our short-term memory is, our thoughts, emotions. And so we access that. And it's it just seems to know what we need to release. And that's why Tania felt it so powerfully, because it's just, you know.
That's a good way of putting it. I usually react to that.
Incredible.
When I did it with you the first time, which was, I believe that was like, it was like February 12th. Oh my God.
Yes.
So people wouldn't know this, but also too, in addition to Jimmy James, your question, the one about how do you know if you could benefit from something, like what's the blinking light?
Yeah.
I think one thing that's important to identify, especially for people who are listening to this, if you've ever tried to lose weight, if you've done everything from diet to exercise, killing yourself at the gym, whatever it is, chewing on paper and ice cubes, and you still can't lose weight, it's more than likely trapped energy somewhere that's keeping you from achieving your goal. Because after the first session, the February 12th session of 2019, I lost, I don't know how many pounds. I probably lost like 15 pounds off the bat.
Yeah.
And I could tell, but this last time that I did this with you, April 15th, I lost an additional amount of weight, because after that session, I ended up receiving some more trauma from the first heartbreak cord, right? That situation came back into play, and it really messed me up. And I just gradually started gaining weight again, just from revisiting this old situation. And also just confronting the situation. And I kept gaining more weight and gaining more weight and gaining more weight. But when I came back to you, you helped release that all over again and then some. So that's right. The weight loss is, or if you
weight loss, it's, you know, the reason why I don't actually make bold statements that this will do this or this will do this, say on my website, is because everyone is so different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the people I have worked with focusing on weight loss, it's incredible. Once they get, sometimes it's just a negative belief, a limiting belief, mm-hmm. that, oh, this will never happen. Mm-hmm. And we go underneath, 'cause we'll look at a goal. I'd like to release some weight. And I might ask their subconscious, is there anything blocking your subconscious from you achieving this goal? Mm-hmm. And I, invariably it'll come up. This is part of T3, actually, a certain thought that say, oh, I'll never be able to do it. So what we do is we get the conscious mind in alignment. Oh, the other way around. We get the subconscious mind in alignment with the conscious. Mm-hmm. So once we do that, we can achieve that weight loss. And that's what it is. We just release the underlying trapped emotions, and then we replace that with a positive that absolutely, I'm open now.
Yes.
To losing weight.
So let's go on to the muscle testing mm-hmm. portion, because that's the part, that's where we start getting into the meat of how you do this, because you have a chart, right? You have a yes. computer, and you go through this. So walk us through this process.
Okay, I have a chart of 60 trapped emotions, and it's straight out of this. I was going to look for it here, but it's, of course, I won't be able to find it until after. But, and so what I do, for example, say if, someone had a limiting belief that they couldn't lose weight. Mm-hmm. And I asked the subconscious, is there something that we can is there an underlying cause? And then if trapped emotion comes up, I access the chart and I actually go, by the way, this is a form of muscle testing. There's dozens, at least a dozen that I'm familiar with, and they're all in this book. Mm-hmm. But this I do, this is hole in one. And this is yes, and this is no. And so I asked their subconscious, is there a trapped emotion on this chart that is blocking you from letting go of this belief? Mm-hmm. And sure enough, the intuition comes right. It sounds like it's coming from me, but it's coming from the person's subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And it just leads me immediately to identify these trapped emotions using this chart. And so I just muscle test them each time. That's a really good question, actually, because that's how we get the accuracy. It's not just me, you know, out of the blue. We do follow a protocol. That's all that's been published, and I love it because there's a sense of safety within this protocol. And we ask just yes and no questions to the subconscious. And does that answer your question? I hope I didn't go off on a tangent.
James?
Oh, for me?
The muscle testing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the, it's very interesting that there is a quantifiable way to get to the answers, right?
Yes.
Because in just playing devil's advocate, right? And you kind of hinted at this, you don't pull things out of thin air.
No.
And somebody who could potentially be, a skeptic would say, okay, this is coming out of thin air. But because there is a process, and you said it's published, so
yes.
This has to be in wide practice, I would assume.
Oh, I went to a dentist in Irvine last year, and he muscle tested me a different way, this way, to see if I needed, can't remember the question he asked my body. And it was incredible. I know what it did. He asked me if I had metal in my mouth, and I didn't have any of the fillings, but I had jaw surgery years ago, and I do have metal in my mouth, but he didn't know that, and he got yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I don't know what's more amazing there, the doctor getting that answer or you not having any fillings.
Well, I'm no metal fillings.
Okay. No metal fillings.
Yeah. Just what are those called? The white fillings.
Ceramic
porcelain?
or porcelain.
Ceramic.
Yeah.
Porcelain fillings. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the audience, for what they're watching, do you want to give a quick demonstration of connecting? Can you do that now?
Yeah.
Of connecting with me, since we've connected before, or do you want to give James a try?
I could ask, maybe I could ask James's body if there's maybe 3 trapped emotions that his subconscious would like to release right now.
I would love to do this, Rose, because I'm dead inside.
Oh, no, you're not.
Yes!
You're not. Okay, and I have this chart. I'll just show it to you. It's right out of
Go ahead, James. Stretch it out. Get ready. All right, there's the chart right there. There's the chart.
Okay.
It's actually in my head, but we do have it. And okay, so all right. So I'm going to ask James, do we have, and you don't have to answer, I'm going to ask your subconscious. James, do we have a good, strong connection do I have a good, strong connection with James? So we have yes. So we have a good, strong connection between your subconscious and myself. Yeah, this is yes, and this is no. All right. So I'm going to ask your subconscious, is there a trapped emotion that we can release for you right now from our emotion code chart? I got a yes. And can we identify it? Yeah. So I have 2 columns and 6 rows, and this one comes up in A5, column A and row 5. Yeah. Okay. Is it blaming? No. Is it dread? No. Is it fear? So fear comes up, and we don't have to explain it. We can ask, though, when did this become trapped in your body, this fear? I got 4 days ago. 4 days ago. And every time we give a time, it can be maybe plus or minus on each side. So, but we'll just go with ballpark, 4 days. And so can we release it? Yes. And so again, because we're connected by proxy, I'm connected to your subconscious. I've set my needs aside, and we have this energetic or flow or connection between us. And so now I can just pass my hand, and essentially, so my governing meridian is really yours. if that makes sense. So I'm just passing my hand. We are now setting the very strong intention, and this strong intention amplified by my hand, we're putting magnetic energy into the flow of the governing meridian. So we are amplifying our intention to release this trapped emotion of fear from your body. And we just passed 3 times. So we're going to ask, did we release it? Yep. Is there a second trapped emotion to identify to release for you from this chart? Yeah, B2. Okay, so that's column B, row 2. Is it failure? Okay, so failure comes up. Now, when it comes up like this, it means that on some level, in some way, you're not measuring up to your own expectations. Now, let's ask, is failure absorbed from someone else? Actually, yes. So it's not your own. Is it absorbed from, and we could find out, female. So is it someone in your family? Yeah. So maybe that person's going through a difficult time, not measuring up to her expectations. And this is really unusual time too. We have to be kind of compassionate with ourselves because we've been sequestered in. Now we have the protests going on. So it can mean, and everything's just, it could be meaning we're not measuring up as mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, you know what I mean? It can be, we're not just talking about finances, it can be, honestly, it can be anything. And guess who knows? Your subconscious. So we just hold the intention, and you do too. You're just imagining in your mind to let this go. And so whoever you absorbed failure from, we are releasing this trapped emotion of failure from her as well as from your body. So because it's absorbed, it's from both of you. We are releasing trapped emotion of failure. And we're just going to double check, did we? Yes. And lastly, can we identify that third trapped emotion? Yeah, A2. So it's column A, row 2. Is it anxiety? It is anxiety. So I'm going to ask, is this absorbed from someone else? Actually, it is. Was fear absorbed from someone else? Okay, so is anxiety also absorbed from someone female in your family? Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead. We are releasing the trapped emotion of anxiety from, is it from just one person? Okay, so from that person. And if we were in a private session, I'd ask you, who do you think it is? And I could muscle test yes or no. But since it's public, we'll just keep it confidential. So we're releasing the trapped emotion of anxiety from your body as well as hers. There you go. And then let's hold the intention to replace these energies with love, with compassion, with kindness, and with care. There you go. And the reason we do that is because we go down deep into the cellular level, and we just put this beautiful healing. It's like a healing balm. And also if it was just your session, I'd ask again, does that resonate? What happened 4 days? Did something? Were all those trapped emotions from 4 days ago? Yes. Okay, so 4 days ago something happened, and you felt, and someone else you're close to felt fear, failure, and anxiety. And
this was one conversation. You dug up one conversation. I have to tell you, I am very, 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 very skeptical. It took me forever to go to therapy, right? It took me forever to figure out what I wanted from a self-help type of situation, because I've always done it myself. I'm resourceful. I can do it. I can dig the hole and climb the mountain at the same time. But I have to tell you, I am so appreciative that you would take the time to do that for me, that in and of itself makes me feel
You're very
good.
welcome.
It's very kind. So thank you very much.
Thanks for being open. And maybe have a glass of water after tonight. And the water actually so important. It rehydrates the cells and facilitates greater, deeper, smoother healing. And yeah, I've got a book just written on what water does, just all about water.
Wow. Wow. And in me saying that I'm typically a skeptic doesn't, that is in no way a judgment on this whatsoever. I think I'm just communicating what in the moment is, just what in the moment I'm feeling. But this is definitely one of those, okay, I need to take it back. Tania has a 48-hour rule, where you got to digest something for, 48 hours before coming to a conclusion. So, but I do have to tell you, I do feel very appreciative, and I do feel very thankful. And that's filling in some sense, immediately.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. At least it's great. And when you get off the call, you might think, what did happen 4 days ago? What day are we today anyway? Monday. So you think back, you go, oh, because I've had people say this, oh my gosh, I didn't, yes, I know what that was, but so let's see how you feel.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I may shoot you a note just to follow up.
Thank you.
Yeah. She loves notes. She uses them for her. She loves notes. She loves notes. And the great thing about Rose is after a session, she takes it upon herself to follow up with you to see how you're doing, which I love waking up to those, Rose, because you've helped so much. I also want to mention during this moment, how you said that we absorb other people's feelings.
Energies. Yeah.
So without knowing it, without you guys knowing it, when I sat down on this call, I was fine. And then I absorbed, or I felt a feeling of pain down this part of my back, all the way down here to like right here, this right here. And when you did this to him, it cleared me of that pain. I no longer feel that pain right now. And I don't know if that's because I'm listening to you do it, but whatever you were feeling, Jimmy James, that I had no idea you were feeling because we haven't talked about it, I absorbed it. And that is very interesting how you had mentioned earlier that as people, we absorb each other's energy.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense, because if you think of it as a term of a comedian that's making people laugh, and you give people this gift of laughter, it's what they call infectious. You make everyone around you feel good, and you make them laugh. But I never knew of how much you absorb other people's energy. And so, and nothing bad, Jimmy James, I'll go to hell and back for you. You know that. So it's all good. I'll roll with the punches. But just so you guys know, I don't feel this back here. So I don't know if anybody who's listening, if you guys felt that and were tuned in and were open to this, you probably also did get a clearing of fear, of anxiety, and failure as well. So to everybody out there, you're welcome. This is so great that we did it, and I wasn't a T3 hog by saying, Rose, clear me.
Yeah, no, I definitely, it's been a wild weekend, so I definitely appreciate it. But I'm happy that there was a little bit of a splash over there.
Yeah, a little bit of splash.
The first 3 rows are going to get splashed.
The first 3 rows are going to get splashed. That's so funny. What I think is really interesting, since we're all talking about the way that we all absorb each other's energies and how we, I guess it would be a good way to explain, like when you're around a Debbie Downer, a person that comes in with a wah type of story, and then they leave everyone feeling some sort of way, right?
Yeah.
Like I when I was in Mexico, I was to meet my friends, and everyone was in a good mood. Everyone was doing really great, right? We're all happy, meet. There's one person came in, and the first thing out of her mouth is, "Oh, I just had to put my dog to sleep." I was like, "Oh, fucking come on. Like, really? Wow. Where, you know what? Can I have your number to make sure I don't invite you to my next party?" Like, it's just like, oh, and I absorbed that. I didn't know about this absorbing thing until you talked about it right now, but I could really feel the way she just over and just down the whole room. With that, I understand, people that are watching have pets. They love their pets, right? They love their dogs and their cats. When I was a cat owner, the one thing I always knew about my cat is it was always there. When I was feeling sad or wanted to cry, my cat would literally come up and lay on me and just start doing biscuits, like right here, like just, and the cat always knew to do this. I didn't have to call it. Yeah. The cat just came over and did it. I also know of people that have pets that die all the time. They're just constantly getting new pets all the time. Like, do you remember that Paris Hilton episode on South Park, Jimmy James? The one where the animals were committing haru.
Yeah.
Like, she had all these, like, it was a cartoon episode where the animals, she had a picture album of all her animals that had committed suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't handle it.
They couldn't handle being her pet. Yeah. But I've known of people that are constantly on Facebook posting that their animals passed away. And it's like, what the hell is going on at that household? I had a boss who was extremely toxic, so toxic that I had to sign an NDA, and her pets ended up passing. And it's just like, and so I was reading the part about the pets. Explain that to the audience, how that works when your pets stop eating.
Actually, that's interesting. That's another page I added to my website, is because our pets have an empathetic radar to our needs. Mm-hmm. And just as you said, if you're feeling down or blue, your cat or your dog will just come up and want to snuggle and everything. And we talked earlier, of course, of absorbing energies, and that's exactly what they do. They absorb emotions that we're feeling. They're connected, and we do the same thing. We use the same. In fact, in the emotion code, Dr. Nelson there's an equestrian center. He used to live in Orange County, and there's an equestrian center about 20 miles north of, 20 minutes. And he worked with horses, and releasing trapped emotions from horses. And really? And so I have worked personally with cats and dogs, and it's incredible. I'll even, just as I asked you, James, a time frame would come up. Did something happen 2 weeks ago in your home? And the owner will say, well, actually, I went away. But I had a dog sitter come, and sure enough, because abandonment came up for a dog, or betrayal, and maybe even anxiety, the same emotions, they feel the same emotions. And we just pass the hand. And if I'm working remotely, I'll have the client sit with their dog or their cat on their lap. And if it's a huge dog, they can just sit on the floor, and they pass their hand. Because I do it just as with people, but sometimes people feel like there's a sense of inclusion. So I have them pass their hand from their, right here on their dog or cat, over their head and right down to the beginning of their tail 3 times. And James is probably thinking, really? Okay. But honestly, I've had people, in fact, someone we know, Arlene's dog. Mm-hmm. And he had Mr. Chow. He had lost his brothers, and there were long-term brothers in the family, and he was feeling down, and so I released. I was just there, not for him, but I just released depression from him again, right on the chart. This supposedly people emotions, right? And then he had, on a different occasion, he had a bump on his leg. And I said, "Oh, is there a trapped emotion under there?" He was just came in and, it was in the living room. And I don't know how many trapped emotions, just quickly, 2 weeks later, the tumor was gone.
Wow.
And that's not me saying this. This is, Arlene. So
That's wild. When it comes to pets, I've never had a pet. My daughter was the first thing I ever named.
She's your first. Lydia's your first pet.
She's been the first thing I've ever named. So when it comes to pets and animals, like I've always seen people have connections with their pets.
Oh, they're fur babies. Yeah.
And I don't understand it because I've never been in that situation. I don't get it, and it's not for me to, to be judgmental or to think any different of it. It just, I don't have that code doesn't exist in my computer to understand that, that type of relationship. But it's so interesting because, as I'm sitting here thinking about, the energy healing that we just went through, and this is just some immediate feedback, right? It's you see people, which I think is very valuable. And I think in you giving them your time and assigning names and definitions to feelings that they have had, I think is very empowering, right? Because if I think back to 4 days ago, and the the situation that I was in that caused those emotions were definitely there. But when you're in that when you're in this in the situation, in the environment where you're receiving those emotions, you don't necessarily have like the time or the ability to sit there and start cataloging stuff.
You don't.
And it's just like things might hit you and you're like, okay, well, I just got to work through this, right? I got to either get through this conversation. I got to get through this situation. It definitely wasn't life or death. It was tense. It was tense, definitely tense. But I think there's such a value, and I think there's such a value and such a need to be seen. And I think, at least for me, I really felt seen. And being as analytical as I am, being able to have a definition for those emotions helps me package them up better to get rid of them.
Yes.
If that, I don't know if that's a decent
that makes
explanation.
Total sense. Yeah.
Well, did I give you those emotions? Was it our conversation? I guess we'll talk about this afterward.
Yeah.
Sorry, James.
I don't need any more emotions. Come on now. But no, so this is just as I'm like, sitting here and processing, not to take anything away from the, the animal conversation, but I would have to think that, I've seen owners with pets be crummy to their pets and their pets react, right? The dog or the cat, may not understand the English, may not understand the word, but there's there's an energy and an emotion behind what they're saying and they react to it, So it's so interesting to think of an animal, a non-verbal being seen and heard in that way.
I worked with a client on Skype in Toronto, in Canada, and we already had some sessions, and it was all to do with relationship. And she actually met her fiance 7 months after the sessions, and her cat, Duchess, this most exquisite cat, it should be on Vogue cat. I mean, you know those cats with big fur, like this regal looking, and named Duchess. She contacted me on email and she said, you know, Duchess is having a real issue with my fiance who's moved in. She'd already, for 5 years, she'd been her constant companion, and she is refusing to go to use the litter box. And so, can you do a session? So she actually was on Skype with Duchess right next to her, looking all of the Queen. And I said, now, and I know you're going to say this is kind of weird, but I connected with Duchess, not the client, but with the cat. And yeah, jealousy came up. It's right on here. Jealousy came up, peeved. You know, the cat was a little irritated. Thank you. And anyway, long story short, we released these trapped emotions. And not only did she start using the kitty litter box, but she started to warm up to her fiance.
So when somebody has a baby, right? Like, you know, people have babies and then the animal feels left out. The animal can have jealousy as well?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah. Can you figure out if that animal's trying to murder the baby?
Oh my gosh. No. Now that's extreme.
That's a movie. That's an indie movie that I saw. It's just
don't put that word on your shirt.
No.
But animals are so, and so we support their physical and emotional health, because they can also have, like I don't think Arlene would mind me sharing about Mr. Al, but he had a physical, something physical there that literally went away. And can I say that will happen every time? No. It really just depends on that particular person's energy field and whatever's going on, which is so different.
So animals that have had tumors that come up all of a sudden, or things of that physical ailment that comes out of nowhere, could be trapped energy.
It could be.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. But animal owners will certainly try it, because I had a friend who has had, well, her friend had this gorgeous little dog, and I must have given that dog about 12 sessions. And the only reason why she let me do it is because the surgery, the dog, I can't remember what the ailment was. It was about 3 years ago. And the dog's vet said, look, it'll be about $20,000. And it wasn't just the money, it was they couldn't say for sure that the dog would survive. Mm-hmm. And she never had energy healing, but because of my friend talking about this work, she said, well, and the dog lived, like I said, the dog passed away about 6 months ago. So 2.5 years more.
Wow. Oh, very, very
so
interesting. I love it for people out there who have pets that have stopped eating or just out of nowhere. I think this is really important to look into. I think you would be a much more inexpensive way of kind of seeing maybe what's wrong with a pet before you start taking the pet into the vet, because it can get really expensive.
And we only do half sessions for a dog or a cat. It's only 30 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So $65 for a half a session.
Yes.
Because we don't want to overload their energy system, because dogs and cats are so receptive to this work. There's no filter.
Mm-hmm.
Respectfully, James talked about skepticism, which I'm a little analytical myself. Mm-hmm. And for me to do it with my background in something very conservative, but because, when we're stuck and we want to try something that might just really help us, and I like doing things myself, we're going to do it. And I think people with their animals might do the same thing.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, if they ever tell me I've got 6 months to live, you know who I'm calling.
Look at you. Look.
Rose, just put a little more gas in the tank. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked about family earlier, and we talked about groups and releasing it with groups. What if a family is sharing a whole trapped emotion together? Like, say the whole family is going through a depression, or they're going through an anxiety, and you have one person out of that group come in. How does that apply?
Well, you know, and in cases like that, I actually ask, especially with, like, say, a 16-year-old daughter or a 17-year-old son, old enough to make a decision. I always like to have the kids give their permission, even though the parents are in charge. I like them to give me permission to actually, even if something's absorbed, would it be okay if I work with your mom on your behalf, you know, or your mom and dad on your behalf? So we have the family, see? And so it works. We get permission. It's always important. See, when you filled out the
intake,
the intake form, you're essentially giving me permission. And so that's how I do it with families. I make sure the kids know, and unless the child's 6, then it's totally up to, you know, mom and dad. And then we work. We ask if these emotions are absorbed. We ask, were they inherited? And we bring the family in. It's amazing how we release that, and how we can get some good results for the teen, because it's a difficult time anyway for teens. Not just this climate here, but you know, they're going through all kinds of changes, physiological changes, emotional, and they're about to go away to do something different, college, so there's a lot of trepidation, and it can cause quite a bit of, or there might be some other, you know, abuse going on. So yeah, we make sure everybody is kind of on board. We don't do any of this work behind anyone's back.
That's very interesting. You talk about children or young children. Jimmy James, this is good because you have a child.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have children. Talk about that, the clearing of children and teens, and that whole process, and how that affects the family.
Yes, I've worked with usually mothers will ask me, once I've, you know, worked with them, they trust me, and you know, they'll ask me, can you work with I had a little boy. He's about, I think he was either 5 or 6, and he would make these comments out loud in his classroom, and it brought him some teasing. It disrupted the class, and she was really concerned about it because the teacher had talked to her about it. And again, for children, it's only half a session, you know, because they're very, very open to, there's no filter. And yeah, he'd been teased at home by an older sibling, and was really getting upset with that. So we released those trapped emotions. There was a cord, and I said, oh, there's a cord coming up with, you know, a male, and so is there, no, is it, and then you go through, is it father, is it brother, is it uncle, you know, and really improved. I mean, even when I get the feedback, even I go, really, this is amazing, you know, because you never know if it's going to be effective. Do they need another session? Sometimes they need, maybe, like you said earlier, the layers, you know, James, you said like that. And so sometimes it might take 3 sessions, but they're only half an hour.
I hate to bring this up, but it just kind of popped in my head. I'm sorry for anyone that's listening to this, or if this helps, I hope that it does. But and I hate to ask this, Rose, in your client intake basis of clients that you've had. Have you ever had to clear a child that has gone through any type of molestation, and you're able to find who it was as it comes?
Now, that's a really interesting question. About 2 years ago, I went to one of the conferences with Dr. Nelson and his team. Mm-hmm. And he said, when it comes up to something like that, and he really addressed it. It was a 3-day conference, and each day, the first day was health, the second day was wealth, and the third day was relationship. And on the first day with health, he said, we don't know, we know because we release physical trauma energy, emotional trauma energy, release those cords. We release memory. We don't erase memory, of course. We just release it from in front of the body, and we actually release it from the energy field altogether. Mm-hmm. So we don't actually, remember I said before, it's non-invasive. We don't ask. We just simply release energy. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between what I do and the whole talk therapy, for which I'm, I don't even, since I'm not a therapist. So I just focus on energy. So to answer your question a little bit more succinctly, I don't actually define it. Mm-hmm. It will be emotional or physical energy. Now, physical trapped energy can be from a car accident, a fall. It can be from a surgery. It can be from being hit. Mm-hmm. We just don't name it unless, I did work with a lady, and she actually said that she had 6 years came up, and she said, actually, yes, I had, and she named a couple of surgeries. But other than that, we don't really define it, because we have to be very careful with that whole spectrum.
Yes, of like saying, it was Uncle Joey, and then you're having to get called in. It's like you don't define that. You're just able to release the trauma.
Yes, because again, exactly. Well said. The subconscious already knows everything we've experienced. So even though we don't actually, articulate the words, the subconscious already knows, and it's just as powerful without going into it when we release it.
Earlier, had you have told me, here's the situation that you were in, I would have immediately gotten defensive, and I would have said, oh, how would you know? Right. There's so much, I think it was so much more valuable to take the emotions and the energies that you were bringing up and assign them to the situation on my end, because for you, I don't want to say, what does it matter what the situation was, as long as I find meaning in it. And as long as I can assign that meaning and that value and let it go. At that point, like you've done what you were supposed to do, as an energy healer. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just getting back into talk about my stuff again.
No. It's beautiful. We just take out, like you said before, that golf ball, that sphere of energy, mm-hmm. or even the melon. And we literally just bring it up and we release it. Mm-hmm. And we fill it with amazing, high-powered, you can't get the higher vibrational energy than love, compassion, kindness, enthusiasm. And we just bring all that flowing, beautiful energy into your body.
Definitely. Yeah. And I have to tell you, Rose, just from experience, looking at Arlene as well. Arlene is a walking testimony. Her mother, they glow. you look at them and you're like, wow, they're glowing. I feel like I'm emitting total radiance from these sessions so much. Jimmy James, I'm so interested to hear how you feel in the next few days. Drink a lot of water. But the one, there's a few more questions. The one that I want to hit is financial. A lot of people running around broke. They don't know how to make money, why they're not able to make money. This one comes up a lot. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, we have part of it's called Abundance Breakthrough, and it's actually this packet that was created by Dr. Nelson and his team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 10 pages, and it's essentially the client fills out, some questions at the very beginning, and then through muscle testing, we go through and look at beliefs. People might have a belief like money is evil, money is the source of, no good, or they might have, and we muscle test all these different vibrations, even worthiness. I'm worthy to, I'm okay to have a lot of money. Some people muscle test, when we muscle test, it's a no. Mm-hmm. And yet on a conscious level, they do think that it's okay. And so we align the subconscious with the conscious mind. And at the very end, there is a goal, and I might even start with this. I don't wait till the end. They write a goal, of a financial goal, and I muscle test what percentage are they in alignment with this goal. Ooh. And some might be 12%. Have they achieved their goal? No. Does it look likely? Maybe not, because they're not in alignment with it. And so we just bring them up to, close to 100%. And sometimes it's layered, sometimes it takes more than one session. Mm-hmm. But again, we open the door for them to receive abundance.
But yes. It just reminds me, I in all the sessions that we've done, me and you have never hit money. We have not hit money yet. So I will definitely plan to do a session. I'm going to have you book me in. And Rose, I know you're like super booked. I want to tell you, I know you're always super booked up in appointments. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart of always opening a space for me, or opening a space. And you also open a space for my referrals. Like you really do, try to get them in there. Yes,
absolutely.
No, I appreciate your level of customer service. I can't even call it customer service. It's your attention to our needs is just so amazing. We have one audience participation question from actor Adam Mendoza. You can see him in Snowfall on FX. Be sure to catch up on that. His question is, after they go through a session with you, how do they know that this is working?
That's an excellent question. How did you know it was working for you?
Oh, well, yeah, this is funny. I did not know until it happened. I just, at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about how I just did a session with you last Wednesday. And before that I had done one on April 15th, right? This is really funny because I could hear my subconscious, like, so Jimmy James, so me and Rose are doing this session, right? And we're getting to the end of it. And, she's releasing all these emotions. And then we get this one. It felt like I was in the principal's office too. She's like, I get recreational drug use. And my weed voice goes, no. I just want to go, no, she's gonna get kicked out. Like I just could hear it. But I was like recreational drug use, but like to me, like weed's not recreational. And Rose is like, yeah, it is. Yes, it is. So that was one. Funny thing, I ended up quitting smoking weed about 5 days later, 6 days later. And I was going to replace it with shroom microdosing was my plan. I was like, okay, I'm going to quit weed. I was like, I'm going to quit weed. And to get through it, I'm going to microdose. Microdosing is actually another podcast that James and I, it's a topic we're going to be talking about because it's just so miraculous. The help that it does. I actually used microdosing to get me to feel to a normal point after I stopped drinking on February 2nd. I just recently stopped completely drinking, and I could not feel normal for the life of me. It didn't matter how much running, how much B12 I was doing. Nothing was helping. But once I started microdosing, somehow I got back to normal. I felt so normal, like nothing, like I had never drank, everything. But so my plan was, I'm going to quit smoking weed. I'm going to start microdosing. Would you believe that I forgot? I just, no, it's not even stoner. I straight forgot. Like I was like, okay, it's top of the morning, first day Tuesday. I stopped on 420. I smoked 420. It was my last day to smoke. And I was like, okay, 421, I'm going to microdose. So I took out I took out the capsules, right? And I went to go get water and I forgot. And then Wednesday came and I was like, Thursday came. I did not remember. Friday came. And then I think it was like the week after I was like, wasn't I supposed to be micro?
Wow.
Huh. Okay. That's weird. Okay. But I didn't think nothing of it. Right. Just didn't think nothing of it. So then the next one was when you cleared me of this blocked energy that I had this last Wednesday here in this area. For the longest time, I have felt a very deep fog in this area, huge fog, a weight, extra just stuff. You cleared that, okay? I did not realize that my eyesight was also affected and that I was actually going blind from this eye. I thought I was going blind from just overall from drinking and age and just my eyesight not being focused, but it was actually this blocked energy that was here. So you cleared that, and I swear, and it was a crazy session because I got hot, I was sweating,
Remember,
I could.
Yeah. You had to get the cold cloth. Remember, you felt a little, a tiny bit dizzy. Remember?
Yeah, I was dizzy sitting down. I was dizzy. I was hot. As you were connecting with me to get these trapped energies that were in me,
Right.
and you had me even stop. I took a drink of water. I even got up and went and I peed. Had to pee. The whole thing, right? I came back. You continued your work. I did the cloth. I drank water, and about maybe 2 hours later, I was with Bobby Badass Fisher. By the way, shout out to Bobby Badass Fisher for this awesome outfit at One Love, One Tribe Apparel. I wear her stuff. If you guys don't know this, shameless plug, but I can do it because it's my show, right? This is made out of recycled water bottles. This material, and it helps the environment. So shout out to One Love, One Tribe Apparel. I went to her house to help her how to use a gimbal, right?
Yes.
And when I picked up there was this little tab with directions on it, and the font was so tiny, I would not be able to read it. Usually I would need some kind of reader glasses at this point to read it.
Yeah.
Would you believe that within 2 hours of that session, I could see that font with no reader glasses? And I was like, oh my God, like I had to text you, Rose, I think I was going blind. And now after this session, I can see. It was a miracle. So you don't know, I guess to answer Adam's question.
Yes.
You don't know if it's working until you start seeing things that weren't the shifts. It's just shifts that'll happen.
Yes.
But yeah, and with that, thank you. You've been checking on me every day to see how my vision was doing for the past few days. And it does shift. Some days, mornings, I would wake up, I couldn't see. I could still not see. And then as the day went on and I drank water, I was able to see.
Yes.
And then the next day it would kind of fall out again. And I would drink water when I got up. And then before you know it, I was able to see. Right now, I can see a lot better. Before I could, yeah, you're holding two fingers, Jimmy James. I could see you. Yeah. I could see
good,
you.
very good.
Yeah, but it works. And Rose, you are just amazing. I want to thank you so much for this time. Jimmy James, before we go to your final questions, I want to let everybody know that we are giving away, and not giving away, I'm going to be paying for an emotion body T3 release for you viewers out there that are watching, that are listening, that get to see this YouTube replay in the next 24 hours if need to be. What I would like you to do is that I would like you to write a 100-word essay on why you feel you need this session. And right, this would be a good way to do it. I want you to write out an essay. It's totally confidential. I want you to send it to Rose. What is your email again?
It's Morro, MORRO dot Rosemarie, ROSEMARIE at gmail.com.
Yes. So it's not going to be going directly to me. It's going to be going directly to Rose. Okay. And it will be an essay. If you guys get this essay out to her, and what you have to do, Rose, is you have to send them the intake form. The first person that sends the essay in, you'll get the intake form. The first person that does the intake, and you see they really need this, I will pay for that session. Is that a deal? Is that a good deal?
Yes, and if they forget the email address, they can go to my website, Bliss Energy Healing.
And that's BLISS Energy, ENERGY Healing, HEALING.com.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the description.
Okay, put it in the description. Good. And then that way I don't have to be all chismosa to find out what happened to you between, you know what I mean, your mom and your dad or your ex. Like, it'll all go to Rose. It'll be confidential.
And by the way, confidentiality is very, very, it's top on my list.
Yes.
You know, it's very important.
I want to tell you, Rose, that and as I do with a lot of people that I work with, I know that sometimes you have to give examples because people like it. I want you to feel free in anything that you have done with me. Okay. If it's going to help someone, I want you to share it.
Okay.
I have no qualms on hiding anything of what I've been through because it could definitely help somebody else. So if you ever have to use me as a case example, I want you to feel free to grab my file and use that. And that's my way of saying thank you to you for all that you've done for me. So
I might not use your name though, or anything like that.
Okay, no problem. But you can use the examples or whatever the case, and I'm totally okay with that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jimmy James, final questions?
Yeah, final question. So so you said that you went to a conference. So how big is the energy healing organization, and how often do you have to renew your, I guess just three questions. How big is the organization? How often do you have to renew your certification? And are there different levels of certification? Will you one day, if you haven't already, will you one day be a black belt energy healer?
That's a really great question. Now the community, that last one I went to, there's about 500 people, and he asked a show of hands how many health professionals were in the audience, as participants, and there were a lot. So it's a growing community. Now people can just be certified in the emotion code. Just this is the basis of the work. This work here. And I wanted to do the body code because he layers his experience as a chiropractor, and he goes through every system of the body. He includes the Chinese acupuncture meridian system, the Ayurvedic pathogens, the toxins, and such. And I thought, well, I wanted to become certified in that, so I did. It is a lot more work. And then in the body code, T3 comes up, and I thought, what is T3, for goodness sakes? And it's just taking this work to the next level to address limiting beliefs. And so I worked with that though for about 2.5 years before I became certified. It wasn't as straight. It wasn't as clear. It was a little bit more convoluted. So I'm certified in all. So I'm pretty familiar with, and then of course this abundance, the money part, that was also extra training, not certification, but extra training. So I seem to, everything that comes out, in fact, he just gave us an opportunity. He just released a new body code app, and he's upgraded that. And so it's really powerful how you can keep learning this material, which stimulates my brain. Do I have to have renewed certification? No, not yet. But I think the more people, in fact, the longer I do this, I see more people with harder issues, and I think I asked Dr. Nelson, why is that happening? I'm seeing people coming with really gnarly issues. And he said, well, it's, what's that old saying, when the student ready, the teacher appears. And so I think this is like anything else. The more experience you gain in working with different people and different issues, the more comfortable you, and the more, what's the word? I think the intuition becomes more powerful. The level of intuition becomes more powerful, and the level of confidence in the accuracy of the muscle testing. So I think it's like anything else. You just have to have a drive, that interest level, the passion for it.
Yes.
But so yeah, all the certifications up to it's all done. You can't be you cannot access this work if you're not certified. He has it's called the Healer's Library. He has a global map, and people don't know me from Adam. They'll just see me, say someone, well, it can be anywhere, and they'll see where I am. They'll think, okay, they just click on that and there I am. But wow. It's interesting how you get better. The more that you do, the more your intuition kind of clicks in, and
I think that's great. I think that's great.
Yeah,
I think so too. Well, wow, we did 2 hours on the dot. Whew, that was good. We did it good.
Thank you very much.
Well, no, thank you very much. And if you guys want to join us, we are available every Sunday, right? Sunday at We Are Sacred Light right now. Arlene at We Are Sacred Light, and Rose at Bliss Energy Healing on Instagram. You can also add her there. They have come together during this trying time, or this unprecedented time that we are going through, and they are providing free healing for the community that wants to join in our community. So if you guys have a free Sunday, 7 o'clock, charge your earphones, get yourself a nice little quiet space. Also, a sound bath is provided with breathing work.
Yes.
Rose goes through and releases all these energies that we share as a collective. And Lorraine also comes in and does Reiki remotely during this session. If you guys want to take advantage of the additional sound bath that can happen after the 1 hour session we spend on Instagram, please go on wearesacredlight.com, I believe it is, or go ahead to We Are Sacred Light on Instagram and message Arlene, where you can purchase the sound bath that you get to keep. It's 20 minutes, $5. And if you want the full 40 minutes, it's a professionally recorded sound bath that you get to keep for yourself. And it's a $10 flat fee price. And you can't go wrong with it. These sessions are generally with Arlene is $45. Reiki with Lorraine is $65. And a session with Rose is $130. So treat yourself. Come in for free on Sundays at 7 p.m. at We Are Sacred Light, and we will see you all there. Rose, thank you so much for joining us. This will be up on YouTube in a little while. And Rose, you can also add this to your repertoire of having an interview so people can see what you do. And
thank you so much. It's been great. It's been great.
Thank you.
James, thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. I got to tell you, you are a very, very, very important person right now. And it was so nice to meet you. And you are such a kind and gentle soul that I feel like I am a better person from just saying hello to you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Well, so I feel
no bullshit. No bullshit.
No. Well, thank you very much, you guys. And I'll just be sending positive energy to Los Angeles tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need it. And thank you everybody that joined in. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you guys learned something from this. And if nothing else, I hope that you walk away feeling better tonight, enjoying that experience. And I hope that you're able to sleep a lot better tonight. All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been Talking Crap with Tania Estrada, my co-host Jimmy James, and you have just witnessed the beautiful Rose Morro. Thank you guys so much. And until next time.
Have a good night.
Good night.